Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody, where today we're going to be previewing the Saturday slate of Week 2's games. 2 games on tap, the Iowa Barnstormers at the Green Bay Blizzard, and the Jacksonville Sharks at the Massachusetts Pirates. I don't really want to waste any more time, so we're just going to pop this part right up here for Iowa and Green Bay. We're just going to go right into preview number 1 here. So, as usual, 2023 rankings, and these will eventually go away as the season progresses. We'll get more stats and kind of see how the teams go. But as of right now, 2023 rankings, just again, a little snapshot of where the teams were at last season. I know it's a completely different year, completely different teams, completely different stats. Green Bay's already played a game. They look a hell of a lot better than they did last year. So again, these stats are just kind of irrelevant. As we all know, Iowa dealt with a lot of injury issues last year, so some of this stuff can be taken with a grain of salt. That being said, I just want to take a quick snapshot of it. Iowa, 11th or 12th, double digits in most of their stats. Green Bay, again, just like last week, their defense, total defense was pretty good. The rest was kind of mediocre. So I won't really spend too much time on that. You can look over them. There's that. Let's move on to the players to watch here. I'm going to start with the away team. I'm going to go with the Iowa Barnstormers here and go Darius James-Peterson on the offense. There's plenty of players for them to pick from here. They got a lot of rookies coming in. I'm picking Darius James-Peterson for the very obvious reason. He is the quarterback. He is coming off a season-ending injury. I want to see how he goes against a Green Bay Blizzard defense that looked really good for about 2.5 quarters last week. So I want to see how this team progresses. I do. I want to see how they get over their injuries, how they come together as a team. I think he is going to be obviously the focal point of this offense. That's not to say that he's not going to be slinging the ball around to the receivers and the running backs and stuff along those lines. But I want to see how DJP does in his first game back from when his ACL tear? I can't remember what his injury was, but yeah, he's back. I'm curious to see how he does. Defensively, another guy who got injured, Ian McBurrow. We saw how well the offense for Green Bay came out, just hair on fire. That offense for, Max Myler, and God, all of the running game was so good for them in the first quarter and a half. EJ Burgess was just running all over. Max Myler was running all over. Can he stop them? Can the defensive line for Iowa stop them? It's obviously, these are pretty surface level things, but I'm curious to see where he's going to go, Ian McBurrow that is, when it comes to the passing game. Can he step up and get that, running back out of the backfield or that fourth wide receiver? Is he going to do enough to help that defense stop Myler from running, stop the running game in general, and even help out in the passing game? I'm looking for a lot here. I'm sure he's more than capable of doing it as well. All right, on the Green Bay side, obviously quarterback Max Myler, 5 total touchdowns last week. He was slinging the ball all around to start the game. He was getting it over to, Patron? I always want to say Patron, and he was throwing it to Demetrius Moore. Running the ball, Jalen Cagle, EJ Burgess, Max Myler. It was kind of a 3-headed running monster last week. Can he do it again? Is this just a flash in the pan? Green Bay has these swoons where it's just sometimes they look so good and then they look so bad. And I don't know what it is. Is this going to be just that roller coaster that's going to keep going? I'm not sure. But what I do know is you have consistency at the quarterback position right now. You got to get with it. I think he's the guy to do it. Obviously, we'll do our predictions and everything later. But hey, if there's anything I can tell you, both these quarterbacks are probably going to light up the scoreboard. Defensively, we're going to look up Centell Williams, and I hope I'm pronouncing his first name right. He was all over the place last week, man. He was a tackling machine. I believe he had 8 total tackles. I look for him. I was looking for Ravarius Rivers, who I believe had a pick, and I was looking for Sean Steele too, but Centell Williams really stepped up in this game. I don't know. I'm really looking for a big day from the secondary as a whole for Green Bay because they were really good last week. They were able to keep Massachusetts in check. Can they do that with Iowa? I think Massachusetts is a better team than Iowa. So if you do have another day of lockdown defense, it could spell some doom for the Barnstormers. I'm not necessarily sure. What I do know, however, like I said, I think this is going to be a good game. And can the rushing game for Green Bay go after Iowa's defense? I think that is going to be the big thing here. Can both teams get their running games going, and can Green Bay especially put it together for all 4 quarters? Let's go look at the series history really quick. IFL stats strike again. They do have like the little history tabs when you look at the schedule. On Iowa's webpage, it's Green Bay leads 15-7. When you look on Green Bay's webpage, it's 14-8 in favor of Green Bay. I don't know. I mean, you can go back and check all the stats, but some of it's pretty murky when you get far enough in the weeds. So take your pick. I'm going to go with 7-15. If you want an extra win for Iowa, I give it to them, I guess. Last meeting, week 12, Green Bay 43-17. Again, just injury decimated Iowa. Just not a good season for them last year. Green Bay, towards that end of the season, trying to make that playoff push, almost got it. Green Bay won pretty convincingly. So, quick facts, and then we'll go over to our injury report and 25-man rosters. Green Bay currently holds a 3-game winning streak against the Barnstormers. So, are we going to make it 4? Is the streak going to be snapped? Iowa has not won in Green Bay since the 2019 season, before the pandemic. They won 54-49. Again, is that true? I'm not sure. I have it here from what the IFL says, so that's what I'm going with. But if that's true, it has been 2014 counting. It's been 5 years. It has been 5 years since Iowa has won in Green Bay. What a better time to do it than now. So, yeah. Green Bay average margin of victory versus Iowa at home, which this is at the Resch Center, is 10.5 points since 2021. So, meaning anytime that they're playing in the Resch Center, Green Bay is pretty much winning the game, and they're winning it by 2 scores. I mean, 10.5, I know you got the deuce in there and stuff, but it's pretty much 2 scores at that point. That bodes well for Green Bay. You saw what they did last week. They got out to, 18-point lead? Something like that against Massachusetts. They're able to do it again. I think Green Bay could probably cruise in this game. Over 91.5, which we'll talk bets later, has only hit twice in 2020, or since 2021. Excuse me. It's only hit twice since 2021, meaning these guys play Big Ten football. Wisconsin and Iowa. What more? Go Big Red. But college basketball says otherwise. But anyway, these two teams, they like to just play slow. I don't necessarily know if we're going to get that this week, but these two guys just like to control the clock, run the ball, and just pretty much play Big Ten indoor football. So I'm curious to see if that's going to hit as well, if they're going to get over 90 points. That being said, let's go check out the injury report, the rosters, and we'll just keep on moving. Nothing to report. No injury report. We'll look at the 25-man rosters, and there's probably some guys on injured reserve. Couldn't tell you. Move on. Okay, so 25-man rosters popping up here, and let's just look quickly at the Green Bay side. Not a lot. They do sign Demetrius Moore, which he played last week, but number 13 on the wide receiver, and then they've signed Gavin Torbert, number 77, as an offensive lineman. Everything else just kind of stays the same. Depending on who they have on injured reserve, again, I just wish there'd either be an injury report sent out by the league or the transactions page would come back. So hopefully after week 3 or something like that, when all the teams have had a game to play, that comes back. But regardless, not much has changed on the Green Bay side. Iowa side, let's talk about that one for a little bit. They do bring back, as we said, Darius James Peterson. They do bring back offensive linemen Joe Bastante and Tariq Bateman. They bring back Ian McBurrow. They bring back Tyrell Pearson, linebacker and defensive back respectively. And they do bring back their kicker, Gabriel Rui. They have signed from the Arizona Rattlers Arthur Randall, and they have signed also from the Arizona Rattlers Simeon Gatling. So they do have some guys coming over from other teams. They do sign quite a bit of rookies. I'm curious to see how that offense is going to look. You bring back some offensive linemen to help create that pocket. Taylor Porter, I'm not sure if he's the starter. If he is, I look for him to have a good day running the ball with Darius James Peterson kind of taking the heat off with his scrambling ability. Curious to see how the wide receivers go. I'm curious to see how they go. It's all kind of rookies. You've got Darren Wilson, who's a former Iowa State Cyclone, Kean Williams, Deion McShane, and Trey Long. All those guys are looking hungry to get after it. They've got some bodies there, guys. They've got some big old bodies there, some speed, some physicality. I think that wide receiving core could honestly get after it. It's not necessarily Massachusetts with Isaac Zico and Thomas Owens, but the caveat to that is you have really only seen these guys in college. You don't really have a lot of film on them, especially with them playing together under this offense. So how is it going to look? On the Green Bay side, they've already played a game. You kind of see how they already look. And we'll talk about this with Arizona. We'll talk about this with Massachusetts in the next preview. But you've already seen this team play a game if you're the Barnstormers. You kind of know, in a sense, what you're getting. For Green Bay, you don't necessarily know. We'll see how that goes. Defensively, I'm not sure who's starting, obviously, for Iowa, nor Green Bay, but kind of have an idea for Green Bay. For Iowa, I think Ian McBurrow starts at linebacker. I think you got Ty Tate, another big physical bruising guy. Caleb Brewer, Arthur Randall. Randall played sparingly, I believe, with the Rattlers, so I think he might get the chance to start. Chuck Manning, I'm not going to pronounce that first name. I'm going to call him Chuck. Chuck Manning. That defensive line looks ready to get after it, especially last year with all the injuries that they dealt with. Hopefully a fully healthy defense for this team. Tyrell Pearson, Simeon Gatling, Javon France, Jefferson Fritz, Victor Hampton, and Mark Carter. It's kind of a revamped secondary. Again, last year they were just kind of throwing bodies in there to see what would stick with all the injuries, and like I said, I'm hoping for a lot of health for this team. That secondary looks pretty good as well. I think Tyrell Pearson and Simeon Gatling, if they're the ones that are starting, those are two pretty good shutdown cornerbacks on that side. So obviously Gabriel Rui, second team all indoor football league last year. I'm curious to see how Iowa gets after it. I'll be brutally honest with you. I think they're going to be good. I look for this team to really get after Green Bay, try and put some pressure on them. So, that being said, let's go check out our best bets, and we will move on with our second preview of the day. All right, as always, lines could have changed. I got these on Monday or Tuesday of this week. Green Bay is favored by 9.5. Leading us back to that stat in the very beginning, they normally win by 10.5 points by, being at home. So, locked money line. Apparently, Green Bay was too big of a favorite, and over under 91.5. So, as I said in that very beginning preview part, the unders only hit twice. So, curious to see how that's going to go. There's not really much else. Plus 9.5 for Iowa. That seems a little large considering it's their first game, but again, Green Bay's already got a game under their belt. I look for Green Bay to be a little better offensively, a little better defensively. I think those odds are about right. I'll be brutally honest with you there. I think those odds are pretty spot on here. But let's go check out the best bets, and then we will move on with Aaron. I forgot about Aaron. We'll move on with Aaron's predictions and his synopsis, and then we'll do a second preview. All right, best bet under 91.5. Like I've alluded to, it's only hit twice since 2021, so I don't necessarily know if these guys are going to be on the offensive firepower. It was only 84 points last week with Massachusetts, and I thought that game was going to go over. So I don't know. I think with Iowa coming into town, maybe the offense is a little bit better for Green Bay. Maybe the defense is a little bit better, but I think this is going to be one of those Big Ten country, we're just going to play defense, and you're probably looking at I don't know. I'm not going to spoil it because I've got it in my predictions, but I just have under 91.5. I just think it's going to be a close game, hard-fought game, And whoever comes out on top actually deserves to win it. Unless the refs want to intervene, I think this is going to be a pretty close game. So let's go check out what Aaron has to say. Let's go get our predictions, and we will move on with our previews. All right. Aaron's IFL Corner. Y'all remember Aaron? He's popping up right here. As usual, let's plug him. Go check out the UFL News Hub where this article is written. I'm going to paraphrase what he has to say. Honestly, guys, it only takes like 5 minutes to read. They're not super long articles or anything. It's in depth, but not in depth. You know what I'm saying? It's not like they're talking like, oh, he had 45,000 yards from scrimmage or whatever. Pretty simple stuff. Go check out his stuff. It's really good writing. Link description below. You know the drill. Just go check it out. It's awesome. I appreciate you, Aaron, for writing these, sending them over. We'll keep going with it. That being said, let's start off with the Iowa side of the ball. 2023 was, in his words, a tailspin. Darius James Peterson returns, but new playmakers on offense. It's going to be kind of a question mark to see how they start and how they get going. Defensively, there's more continuity, but it's kind of rare for the indoor football league to have a team with a good defense and a bad offense kind of win a championship. So, that being said, he's hoping for more continuity offensively and hopes that they can get their butts in gear for 2024 season. On the Green Bay side, no fourth quarter collapse. Simple as that. Can you put 4 quarters together? I'm not necessarily blaming the offense there. They were kind of part of it. And this is me speaking, not Aaron. But for Aaron, can Max Myler kind of keep the foot on the gas? Can the defense make some stops? Can they do what they need to do, what they didn't do in week 1? Can they do that in week 2 against Iowa, who, for all intents and purposes, most everyone thinks is probably a step below Massachusetts? I mean, we'll just call a spade right here, but for all intents and purposes, let's just say that. Can they keep it going? Aaron's prediction, 44-36, kind of a close game. My prediction, 38-35 Iowa. What can I say? I root for both Quad City and Iowa. Stunner. I've got to talk myself into it, though. I think it's just that they don't have film on Iowa. You've already had a game for Green Bay. You already have seen what their offensive concepts and defensive concepts are. I think that plays well into Iowa's hand. I'm sorry. I think there's something there that Iowa can maybe exploit. The fourth quarter comeback kind of still fresh in the mind. If Green Bay gets out to a slow start, is that something that Iowa can exploit? Green Bay came out with their hair on fire last week, looking to do it again. I don't know if they can. Can Iowa capitalize on that? That's what I'm looking at. Can Iowa's defense shut down Max Myler? Can Iowa's offense kind of have the Green Bay defense chase them around? It's going to be close. I expect Iowa to play well. I expect an upset. Simple as that. So that's my prediction. Aaron's prediction, I think he's just basing it mainly on Green Bay has already played a game. Kind of the opposite of me, actually. They've already played a game. They have more continuity. Their chemistry is there. It's going to take a sec for Iowa to get going. So he's got Iowa 44-36. I've got it 38-35. That's the preview. Those are our predictions. Let's go check out Jacksonville in Massachusetts. Okay, so preview popping up here for Massachusetts and Jacksonville. Pay no attention to the left side. I mean, one team was in a completely different league. Massachusetts has already played a game. We'll move on. Let's move on to the players to watch. We'll start with running back Logan Wright, which I talked to Jim from Inside the Sharks podcast and kind of just picked his brain on who should be some guys that we look at. He originally said Tamari and Terry, and then a couple days later he said, let's do running back Logan Wright. And I said, okay, why? And he said he's just a big physical bruising back who's also quick. To which I'll take it even a step further. Coming into a new league, trying to start a running game that you didn't really have in the NAL, I think it's a great pick. I'll be brutally honest with you. I think it's a great pick. You can go with the default Connor Blunt. You can go with Cameron Solomon. You can go with Tamari and Terry. But I think trying to get this running game going, especially against that defense that Massachusetts just let Myler run all over. They let EJ Burgess run all over, and even Jalen Cagle a little bit. I'm really curious to see how Logan Wright does in the running game here. Can Connor Blunt get his legs going? Can the running game really, really go against Massachusetts? That's what I'm looking to see. Defensively, sorry, my chair popped. Defensively, I put defensive line linebacker because he played linebacker last year, but I think he's fully defensive line, and that's Brandon Munoz. I'm not sure who's starting on that defensive line. I believe you got Jeremiah Price. I believe you have Ulrich Jones, Brandon Munoz. Regardless, I didn't really... Maybe I'm memory holding this. I'm not sure. I didn't really see a lot of pressure on Benefield. Maybe even in the second half. Maybe I'm just remembering the second half when they were making their comeback. But were they really getting after Benefield? They kind of slowed down the running game, but still, we'll talk about it down below. But Robinson was still able to run the ball pretty well. Can the defense of Jacksonville get after Massachusetts offense? You could put Jabari Gorman here. You can put down the secondary and kind of be like, hey, these are the guys that need to shut down the wide receivers. I did that last week. I want to see how this defensive line can get after this offense. It's a pretty veteran offensive line. I want to see how they do it. Now, Ulrich Jones is there from Arizona. Jeremiah Price was really good for Jacksonville last year from what I've seen. I think this team can get after it. Can they slow down this offense? I mean, they need more than 2.5 quarters, right? I just have to rib Green Bay right there. But yeah, I think Jacksonville has a good shot of doing what they need to do in order to honestly win the game. We'll move on to Massachusetts really quick. Jimmy Robinson, he was running all over the place, especially there in the second half to kind of get Massachusetts back into it. I think he had, 76 yards or something like that. He was really, really good. I mean, he was able to open up the passing game for Massachusetts too by being able to keep the defense honest. And I look for kind of more of the same. Can they get the running game going against Jacksonville's defense? Kind of a flip-flop from what I talked about with Jacksonville. Can the running game get going to open up the passing game again? Remains to be seen, but I think Robinson could have another good game, especially if it's going to take some time, penalties, acclimating to a new set of rules, whatever the case could be. It could be a little bit of a culture shock, but I mean, you've had practices and stuff for Jacksonville. I look for Jimmy Robinson to still have somewhat of a decent game. Defensively, this is going to be big. Matt Elam. We'll talk injury report here in a second, but hey, one of your defensive backs is on short-term injured reserve, one of your good ones. I'm relying on Matt Elam. He had the game-sealing interception last week. You need to shut down Cam Solomon. You need to shut down Tamari and Terry. You need to shut down that wide receiver core, man. You need to shut them down and shut them down quick. You need to make this team one-dimensional and see if they can rely on that running game, which, hey, if Logan Wright's any is worth his salt, it won't matter. But the secondary here, Devin Hafford, Kenneth Durden, Matt Elam, whoever, they need to get this passing game under control. They need to shut it down and hope to God that they don't have a Green Bay 2.0 running all over them. If they do, Massachusetts is probably in for a pretty good game. Series history, dating back to the NAL when both teams were in it. Jacksonville leads 4-1. I did see a stat 5-1. Couldn't really, I was basing this off of just the YouTubes between the two teams, so I only found 5 games. If there was a 6-1 I couldn't find, maybe I just overlooked it. I see 4-1 right there. If it's 5-1, cool. Either way, Jacksonville has a commanding lead. Last meeting, 2019, 54-47, Jacksonville wins in overtime. Quick facts, Jacksonville is on a 4-game winning streak versus Massachusetts. So the Pirates won the first game between the two. Jacksonville has won the next 4 or 5. Both teams have won championships since their last meeting. They went to different leagues. Well, one went to a different league to win their championship. Mass won it in 2021 in the Indoor Football League. Jacksonville won it that 2019 season. And then, obviously, the defending champs of the NAL last year. So, 2 titles for Jacksonville, 1 for Massachusetts. I'm ready for this rivalry to be renewed. Jacksonville is 3-0 on the road against Massachusetts. They have not lost. Now, granted, it is a new home venue. They are not playing in Worcester. They're playing in Lowell at the Songa Center. Curious to see how that's going to play. Is it a true home field advantage with a new fan base or somewhat new fan base? Or can Jacksonville kind of, neutralize that and pretty much make it a neutral site in a sense? However, home, Massachusetts is 14-2 since 2022. They're on their little island in the Northeast, and they don't care who knows it. 14-2. They're really, really good at home. Maybe it's just the lack of fan base. Empty arena, you can hear all the signals. I gotta joke a little bit. But regardless, 14-2. It's a pretty damn good stat. Can they do that in a new arena? Like I just said, is it something where they can get it to the point where it becomes a new home field advantage? Jacksonville's looking to not even worry about that. Let's go check out the injury report. Let's go check out the rest of the preview. We'll go on from there. All right, we have injuries. Short-term injured reserve for the Massachusetts Pirates. They tweeted this out, I think, right before their game against Green Bay last week. Didn't have time to edit my stuff. Hassan Beydoun, I think that's how you pronounce it, and Mamadou Mbaye are both on the short-term injured reserve, which I believe if you're on short-term injured reserve, and I haven't said this before, but if you are, I think you're a minimum of 3 weeks that you can't play. It's on the IFL website. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's your injury report. All right, 25-man rosters popping up here. Not much on the Massachusetts side. Hassan Beydoun and Mamadou Mbaye are off. You bring in Kenneth Durden. He's had experience with Massachusetts. He played there last year for a little bit. We'll move on. Over to Jacksonville. Connor Blunt is your presumed starter. Only one running back on the roster, so don't really know who's going to spell him. He's probably going to play the entire game, Mr. Logan Wright. That wide receiving core looks deadly. I have heard it from you Jacksonville Sharks fans. Anyone that's a Sharks fan watching this, I've heard it from you guys. Put some respect on our names. Tamarian Terry, Cam Solomon, Brian Smith Jr., I believe, are your 3 starting wide receivers. The other ones, they look pretty good too. I'm not gonna pronounce Demetrius's last name. That's just that's a little secret between you and I. But yeah, that receiving core looks great. This is where I think is going to be good too. Offensive line. They bring back Gabriel Gee from the NAL side, and then they've signed Nick Ruse and Lawrence Edwards from the Sioux Falls Storm. 2 offensive linemen that played in the championship game last year. They've got a championship pedigree. I look for this offensive line to really, really be good for Jacksonville. Defensively, they've re-signed Jeremiah Price and Brandon Munoz. We talked about Munoz earlier. They've signed Ulrich Jones, and they've got Marcus Bragg from Auburn as a rookie. I like that defensive line too. Like I said with Munoz, it's not just him. Can that entire defensive line get after the quarterback? Can they cause disruptions and allow the linebacker to blitz? I'm not sure who the linebacker blitzing who's starting is going to be, though. I think it's Jordan Cole. Probably wrong here, but regardless of who it is, like I said, that defensive line needs to let the blitzer get in there and disrupt those timing routes, get after the quarterback and sack him. Defensive backs. Brian Murray, Jabari Gorman, Harrison Poole, and Caleb Ham. Look for Jabari Gorman and Harrison Poole, 2 great defensive backs. Again, heard it from the Sharks fans. I've been watching the podcasts. Those 2 guys look to shut down Zico, look to shut down Owens, and make Massachusetts one-dimensional. If you can focus on that running game and shut down Massachusetts' passing game, you got a really good shot of winning it here. I like this roster for Jacksonville. I think what Coach Gibson has right here, that's really, really good. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be a great game. I'm expecting some fireworks here. I like this rivalry being renewed. I really, really like Jacksonville's roster. Massachusetts, they've got to start out fast too. I mean, that slow start they had against Green Bay, you cannot have it in this one. Simple as that. I look for some fireworks here, guys. Let's go check out our bets, and we'll go talk to Aaron one more time. All right, so bets. -5.5 for Massachusetts. Now, I don't know if they're factoring in home field advantage for that. I'm not necessarily sure. I know I've read somewhere that like Vegas will kind of give you an automatic like 3.5 home point or 3.5 point edge for home field advantage. I'm not sure if that's just college football, NFL, overall, whatever, but they tend to give home field advantage a little bit. I don't think Massachusetts is any different in that regard. They have a very, very good home record. 5.5 though, that's a little tempting, I'll tell you that much. Money line going to the Pirates -170, so underdogs 142 for Jacksonville, and an over-under of 98.5. It's a lot of points. I think that might be the highest point total we've seen. I'm not sure if it was 98.5 for Arizona and Northern Arizona, but 98.5. That's a lot of points. But let's go give our best bet, and we'll talk to Aaron one more time. Best bet. Boom. +5.5. And that doesn't mean they're going to win it. I'll tell you that much, though. They could. They could shock. They could shock the Indoor Football League with winning their first game here. +5.5, though. I think that spread's a little too big. If it was a field goal, that might put me towards Massachusetts. But +5.5, man. If they don't win it outright, even, I like Jacksonville. I do. I think this team is very, very good. I've got them +5.5. I think this is a winner. I'll tell you that much. My other picks are a little iffy, especially Fridays. +5.5, man. I think this is a good bet. Fade me if you want, perfectly fine. But +5.5. Let's go win some money. All right, back to Aaron's IFL corner. We'll get his predictions here in 1 second. Let's talk about his synopsis. I'm going to keep the paper out of the frame. So, Pirates and Sharks come over from the NAL. Obviously, the Pirates were here first a couple years ago. This is the Sharks' first year. Pirates kind of stole a win in Green Bay, and Sharks expect to hit the ground running. Simple as that. Pirates need to, and I said this earlier, the Pirates need to avoid their struggles and kind of get off to a hot start. Sharks are looking to kind of, again, neutralize that home field advantage. They could find themselves in an opening loss if they can't get Jimmy Robinson going. I said that previous too. I think we're on the same page here. He's picking an upset. 55-49. He's got Jacksonville winning. He's got an upset. Not so fast, my friend. Jacksonville covers, but they lose. 45-41. I think it's going to be a close game. He's picking a close game too, less than a touchdown. I think Massachusetts does just enough. Now, let me preface this. I will not be mad if Jacksonville wins. I will not be mad if Jacksonville wins and call this the Cody curse, because if I'm picking Massachusetts, Jacksonville will probably win. But I don't know. I think Massachusetts, having that game under their belt, having that confidence of coming back in that fourth quarter, overcoming 18 points, I think coming home, it just builds up to, we're going to win this game somehow. Again, I will not be shocked if Jacksonville wins. I won't. But I think having to go from Florida to Massachusetts, new place, new rules, I just think it might be a little bit of a culture shock. It's going to be a close game. I am expecting a great game. I think Massachusetts just does enough. Maybe it's a final play touchdown, kind of what happened last week. I'm not sure. Again, if Jacksonville wins, I'm not going to be disappointed. It was hard to pick this game because I don't really know. Jacksonville looks so good on paper. I just think Massachusetts does just 1% more. That's it. It's a 4-point game. I don't know. They kick a field goal and kick a deuce or something. I don't know. They kick 2 deuces and win. I have no idea. I just think Jacksonville is somehow able to pull out the victory. We disagree on both of our games this week, Aaron and I. He's got Jacksonville and Green Bay. I have Massachusetts and Iowa. So someone might win both. We might split. Who knows? But those are our predictions. Those are our previews for our Saturday slate. Hope you guys have enjoyed the preview. Keep liking, subscribing, commenting, doing all that stuff. You know the drill. I'm going to take off here. We got one game on Sunday. We've got one game on Monday. And we'll be done with week 2. But with that being said, guys, let's go enjoy our Saturday night. I am looking forward to it. Till then, guys. See ya.